Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Peralta Online Equity Conference. We are here for our next session. It is called AI, Artificial Intelligence, Its Potential and Disruption to Learning Equity with Ray and Charlie Kaupp. And before we get started, just a few details. This is a discussion, and so we're hoping you'll be highly interactive. But it's up to you how you want to present yourself. So if you don't want to be captured on video, that's okay. You can keep your camera off or on. If you don't want your audio captured either in this recording, then you may put your ideas in the chat or your questions, and either the panel or myself, the moderator, will repeat it for those who are watching the recording or might need to hear it spoken out loud. Next, if you're using captions or want to use captions, there's a little button at the bottom of the Zoom toolbar called Captions. If you don't see that button, you'll find it under the More button with the three dots, and captions will come up as an option in the menu that pops up when you click it. Last, this is a discussion. Today is day 2 of our conference, and we're all about having conversations. So please use the chat to share links, to share questions, to share ideas. With that, I'll hand the microphone over to Ray and Charlie to get us started.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Kevin, and welcome everybody. I'm wondering if it's possible, there aren't so many people here that we could possibly do a fast around the room. Is that breaking protocol, Kevin?
You know, I think if we have people keep it short and sweet, maybe who you are, where you are, and your interest in the topic.
Okay, I'm Ray. I work for BACCC. We try and get programs at colleges to make sense for employment.
Great. Charlie.
I'm Charlie. I'm Ray's kid. I'm a product manager for a legal services and software company. And my focus is on advanced analytics and AI in a sort of real practical sense. And I'm currently in Reno, but I'm from San Francisco.
Great. And now I'm just going to go down the participant list, which is alphabetical by first name, Abby Wood. And again, feel free to type if your microphone's not working or you don't want to say anything. How about?
You know what, Kevin? We've had a few more people join in the since I said that. Let's just have them put their name and affiliation chat instead of.
We can do that in the
it's
chat.
only a 45-minute session, and probably shouldn't spend 10 of it on introductions.
That sounds good. So everybody, please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are, where you are, how you're doing, and what interests you about this topic. That's
great. Thanks, Kevin. So I'll go a little deeper on my interest in this. I had a career in the tech industry. I started in community college 17 years ago, and before that, I worked in tech, and I worked at Apple. Before Apple had adult supervision, I guess, in the 80s, and then started a company and did a couple more startups. One of them was a company called Digital Impact, and we were the first. What we did was we took very sophisticated predictive modeling math that was being done in universities and married that with the capacity of this new thing called the internet to be able to deliver highly personalized services and whatnot on the internet by basically profiling people and then trying to figure out what they'd be interested in and then serving that up. We didn't know what to call it. It was in the 90s, and we didn't know what to call it. We had to make up a name, and the name we made up for it was e-marketing. And it kind of stuck. Ultimately, that company was sold. We went public, and then I wasn't there anymore. But they got sold to a company called Axiom, which is the largest appender of data, I would say, on the planet. I don't know, Charlie, you think they're still the largest, or?
Yeah, maybe, probably one of the.
Yeah. So what those who don't know, Axiom and this data appending process, you could take a list of names and phone numbers, just names and phone numbers, and you could send that to Axiom, and they would send you back a file that had the name, the phone number, and then every other piece of information that can possibly be found out about that person. Do they have a mortgage? What's their zip code? How many bedrooms do they have? Have they ever had their house remodeled? How many cars? Ever been arrested? You know, if it can be found, they'll find it, and then they'll sell that information to somebody, you know, who gives them enough information to match up. You know, and really it only takes a phone number and a name. So that's what happened with the company that I helped start. And I'm frankly a little ashamed about it. I think it got a little out of hand in terms of the privacy issues around it. On the other hand, I also think there's just tons of potential for good uses for the technology. And I think we better figure it out pretty quick here, especially in community colleges. And I'm going to go ahead and share a screen real briefly here. And I don't know, Charlie, I'm relying on you to give the real world perspective here, because I'm all in on the academic side of things now, and I've kind of lost track a little bit of how, you know, the industry itself is viewing these things. But let me do a quick screen share. So this is a program. Those of you, I think most of you are Peralta people. You may already know about this, but this is a program at Laney College. Well, it's a program in the Bay Area region. So I think there's 10 or 12 colleges that are, you know, involved in the program. But Laney is serving as the sort of center of gravity for this. It's basically saying, you know, we at the community colleges need to figure out what our students need to know, both on the tech side of things. And then I think we need to figure out what our students need to know in a general way on the ethics and societal side of things. So Angel Fuentes has helped us start up a new program, AI and data analytics. This is what it looks like. Let's see, this is mostly on the job side. So there's a bunch of interesting jobs in AI. And when it first started, it was all PhDs. and as like any new field, as it gets more and more mature, the level of education required to get in, it seems like, you know, is lowered as it becomes more well understood and common and part of the education structure. So we're right now at a point where the required education is now at the community college level for entry-level jobs. You really don't even need a bachelor's degree for some of these entry-level jobs. Maybe not data engineer, but you know, somebody has to do an awful lot of the sort of, I guess I'd say, grunt work of this field, and we're trying to raise that up to prepare people for full careers where they can advance and whatnot. And then there's a bunch of stuff here. This I can drop a link to this if you haven't seen it. I'll drop a link in the chat in a minute. But basically,
already did.
I did. Oh, thanks. Sweet. You know, and then here's the program. So we're doing an AS degree in AI, and the classes are now, if you look at the timeline, that class was approved on March 6th. So we're right at the very, very beginning of building this thing out. And some of these classes are like natural language processing is a class where the approvals are in process. We also have you know, computer vision, which is I don't know. Is the stop sign thing in the picture? Is the CAPTCHA thing? Would that be considered computer vision? Maybe.
I don't know that that does, but I think that that would be more like augmented reality, like goggles,
Okay.
where you can like look at something and it'll tell you what it is and what it means and things like that.
Got it. And then machine learning, and I know that Laney just received, I don't even think it's come out of the box yet, a robotic car, a small robotic car that's part of Amazon Web Services challenge project to build an autonomous vehicle, a student project where they will build an autonomous vehicle, and AWS sent them a kit with everything they need to build the vehicle, but not a lot of instructions. And that's what the challenge of the project is. So I did want you to be aware that that's going on, and as long as that's in the chat, I'm gonna stop sharing it. And you can poke around there. There's a lot of great information there. I will say it's much more on the a box of Legos with, there you go. It's much more on the career side of things. Like although there is obviously, I mean, we're a community college system. We're the reason that Amazon Web Services and Google and Apple and Intel and everybody else in the tech industry comes to us is because they have a desperate need to diversify their workforce. And, you know, they're aware that only 25% of our students here in the Bay Area are actually white. So they see us as a way to help them diversify the workforce. So, you know, equity is kind of across what we do, but I'm not sure we couldn't be more explicit about that. I'm going to say discussion at this point. There's a couple of us here who have a ton of expertise. I'm just looking at the participants. I don't know if Angel popped in. Hey, Paul. So what do you want to talk about?
Well, and as people formulate their questions, Ray, earlier you mused that a lot of the people in the room might be from Peralta, but I think that's probably not the truth. So feel free to make sure to let people know what you're talking about in more
Oh my
detail.
goodness, there's Portland. Yeah, I'm just looking back up through this is much broader.
We've got the Guam Community College represented here in this session. So we've got people from multiple time zones and multiple educational contexts. So yeah, definitely. I'm hoping that we'll get some good questions here to get this group started.
What an amazing group. What an amazing group. This is great. So
one of the questions in the chat, just to kind of kick things off, David Vasquez from Portland Community College says he's curious to see how AI can be used in education for students and instructors. So a broader question. And then Osibisa Rose B is at Chabot College right here in the Bay Area and wants to further understanding of AI and how it'll exist within learning and equity issues. Margie Stinson is interested in having students answer essay questions using their own thoughts and words rather than essays that are AI generated. So I think there are a number of either practical, concrete topics or some broader ones that are open for discussion here.
Could we with a raise of the hand see how many people in the room have gone to, you know, Chat GPT or Bing or somewhere, one of the AI bots, and actually played with it a little bit? Good. Few people have. Oh, they're coming up.
I was getting ready to pop.
Looks like a lot of people, huh? This is great. I mean, we've been doing it a lot, in my world. Just, some of that's curiosity. And then once our curiosity was satisfied, we realized that we could actually use it for things, and it would make some things incredibly easier than they have been. But I'd be curious in other people's experiences, if anyone's willing to share what their response was when you first went to ChatGPT or something and typed something in there and saw what it brought back. What'd you think?
Michelle.
Yeah, I'll share. I had a very strong response to it. I am a prolific writer and prolific reader and was raised by an English professor. So my first thought was the degeneration of human language or American language that I have feared for a long time, looking at the quality of essays that I've seen and just the general communications that, thinking of how we have evolved, I don't know if evolve is too positive of a word, into this kind of truncated communication. And I love emojis, certainly, and memes are fun, but the handwritten letter is so rare these days, and getting students to really write out their thoughts, echoing what Margie was saying. I want my students to share their thoughts with me, and that I've seen the menace of copy and paste for so long now, especially during the mad switch to COVID. And I was just, when I first saw this, I thought, well, now how are we going to get anybody to ever write a paragraph again? That was my thought. It was pretty strong. And I thought, we're just degenerating prose, and we're degenerating that deeper thinking of organizing your thoughts and expressing yourself with the written language. So that's what I thought. And then I'll cap this in. Then in a meeting that I was in some of the dialogue, I thought, well, how can we embrace that it's there? And is there a way for us to create activities where we say to students, okay, go ahead and use it and turn in an AI essay, but now you have to rewrite that or compare it to your own. I don't know what the group thinks of that.
I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I was actually thinking, my company right now is working on building some creative prompts for large data analysis for the legal world. And one of the things that we've realized is that it's actually really hard to write a prompt for a GPT bot that gets you what you actually want, because GPT is very good at sounding like it knows what it's talking about, but that comes with the challenge of it being wrong a lot of the time. And it sounds like it's right, but it's wrong. So it might be interesting to actually give students an assignment to write an essay or a short story or something, whatever the case may be, and to do it specifically using GPT or an AI, and then turn in the prompts that they used instead of turning in the output, or turn in both, because the prompts are still a creative process to get to something that actually works.
Yeah, interesting. Anyone else? First reactions?
See, Matthew's got his hand up.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, well, hi, everybody. I just wanted to say at our campus, a discussion has evolved, as I'm hoping happens at every campus, where we're talking about AI. And I'm definitely not an expert in this at all. But it definitely brings out the concerns that Michelle was bringing up about, getting original thoughts versus just thoughts, and where do you start, and how do you get people to ever write again? I mean, that's definitely been a concern that we've allowed faculty to speak about at Ventura College. And I hear what you're saying about the fact that it confidently produces information that could be totally inaccurate and wrong. And that's a concern also with us. But at the same time, when I question it to give me ideas on things that I know well, it does a pretty good job. So if I'm creating a lesson plan, for example, and I need a good prompt, I kind of trick it to, well, I don't trick it. I just kind of tell it, can you write a prompt in this style? It's really cool. I actually purchased a version of ChatGPT. It's not, for my phone, because every now and then I'm just like, well, let's just see what this does. So it helps me elaborate and gives me a good starting point. So I think it scaffolds a good starting point. But as I've heard from others, I would want it, and I can't remember who the expert was, but I would definitely want us to have humans be the final say in the matter, that the humans finally say, okay, this is what it should be. How do you do that in an assignment where you want students to spark originality is a little challenging, I think, for our teachers. And for me too, I'm an instructional designer, so I have to teach teachers some ideas of what they can do. So that's kind of where I'm at these days. And I think in the fall, when we come back to school, I was supposed to have all these things solved. So if you can just elaborate, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday, we have a project that we're working on. Yesterday, we're trying to produce short 75-second scripts that capture different personas of community college students and an associated resume. And the scripts are like, somebody with a useless bachelor's degree who's circling back to find something so they can get a real job instead of Uber. And, a veteran and a new high school student, just some kind of prototypical, not real, but learning tool kind of vignettes of typical community college students. And we asked it to write the resumes. And it took it like a minute, and it was better than I would have done. You have to tell it, hey, write me a resume for somebody who's just finishing high school. They mowed some lawns. They're not sure what they want to do in college, but they did take algebra. You just tell it, give me a resume for a person, and then you describe that person, and darned if a resume doesn't come out the other end. And no, it's not a resume that I would use to try and get a job, but it's a pretty good resume for the purpose we're using it for, which is to help counselors and people at colleges, and frankly, employers, understand who community college students are and where they're starting out, so that we can talk about what they need in order to get where they want to be. Great project for AI, I thought. Let's see, Jennifer, you've got. Did I see Jennifer trying to talk?
She did put something in the chat. I wonder if ChatGPT made a resume, if it would include that as a skill.
Using ChatGPT.
Yeah, we had a little side conversation going there. Yeah, you can trick it into saying whatever you want it to say, which is an art in and of itself. And one of the tricks is to get it to say it in the way you want it to say it. So write me a resume that I could give to, like the Walt Disney Company or something like that. Might read different than a resume that I might give to Intel. Just the style that you write can be changed.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT is not the only one. Quillbot can redesign written works to be written from different levels of ability and with respect to writing and all that.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT did a pretty good job of making it famous, I guess.
Well, they got the Microsoft money.
Funny how that works. Other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to ask one.
Do it.
Should we regulate this? Is what we really need some laws and some clear policies? And do we need to start building some fences around stuff to get it under control? Charlie's nodding. Anita?
I have a question. Who's the we? Are we talking about the feds? Are we talking about we in higher ed? Are we talking about individual institutions? Who's the we? Yes, my answer is yes, it needs to
Citizens
be
of the world.
regulated.
Society.
Society, folks. I'm not sure, nobody's going to regulate it unless somebody says we need to regulate it. Do you think we need to regulate it?
Yes, but those with a vested interest, with the financial, the pocketbook issues, there's just so many. It needs to be regulated, but not to the extent where we lose creativity and innovation. So what's the balance, right?
Nope. I think I agree with that. Margie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I think that what my fear is that we're just going to keep going to more mediocrity. What I want my students in a discussion forum post or in an essay question and exam, I want them to think. I'm not so concerned about their ability to make a beautiful sentence in English because I have students from all over the world. I do want to know what they're thinking and why. And so in my syllabus, of course, we've got plagiarism statement that is part of the school's template. I have added into my syllabus and into a number of places in my Canvas website in the prompts for the forums and the essays. And then in the text box for an essay question, I have my statement. And what I do is I run everything through Zero Chat GPT right now. And I tell them they're going to be deducted for the percentage that was AI generated. And so if it was a 5-point question and it was 100% GPT, well, they got 0. And so I've had it up now for half the semester since early February and have asked for students' comments and stuff. And we're talking about it, but universally, I think they're feeling like they don't want to be compared to other students who are using it. So they want the high quality of what they're reading in the discussion forums from other students because they're learning from the other students. They want to learn the best information and thoughts, not something that some computer generated. So I guess I'm really dragging my heels and waiting to see how this becomes perfected.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think I get that. Can I ask, I'm seeing the comments about the screening tools. It's kind of like Turnitin. Turnitin has some of that same. I've had Turnitin spit back stuff that I wrote, and I wrote it, and it was, that percentage of plagiarism. I mean, if you're doing it, and that may be, if you're doing academic writing in a doctoral program about distance education, there's just only so many ways you can say some things. When you start thinking about literature searches and whatnot. So, but for creative writing, I think it's probably really good. See, Grammarly and Quillbot, yeah. So I'm not sure what the. I think that having a detector raise a question is probably not a bad idea. Having a conversation with a student about, where they got that from. What was this something they had written? And I think that's not a bad idea. I would hate to throw somebody out of school because of a different AI, ruled against them. I guess we could have the Turnitin and the AI that generated it fight with each other about what it was. But
I think it's interesting that the teachers are also using AI to help them with their job.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let me flip this around a little bit. So another thing I've done, because I'm with the Bay Area Community College Consortium, and I'm sorry for assuming everybody knew who I was because of where we were. But the Bay Area Community College Consortium is at 28 colleges in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we've got about 400,000 students. And my job is to try and figure out what employers are looking for in technology education, basically, and then work with the colleges to try and get our programs to reflect that. So one of the things that we're very interested in doing is making sure that prospective students know about all of our programs. So if somebody's looking for a program in JavaScript, or looking for a class that'll prepare them for a CompTIA Security Plus certification. That's a thing for those who aren't tech. It's a thing that people study, and you put it on your resume, and it helps you get a job. So, so we went to AI and started asking it, hey, where do I find classes about whatever in the San Francisco Bay Area? And depending on how you ask that question, between none and two of the community colleges in the San Francisco Bay Area showed up. So from our perspective, there's this other thing, not just the prompt engineering side, but it's almost like SEO, search engine optimization, where people who want their information to show up when a question gets asked do a lot of work with how their information is organized on the web, so that these tools that are going out there and scraping information off of places can find the information that you want people to know. So, putting PDFs, in folders on your website may not be the best way to get information out about your school programs. I don't know. Can you guys find, Charlie, what kind of files can you guys find when you do a search?
Oh, we can find anything, but we're really good at reading textual information. But that said, I think that what you're bringing up is an important point, which is to know how your AI works at all. And that's something that if you're teaching AI, it's very fundamental to understanding what the AI actually does. We've already talked a little bit about different AIs that are tools that exist for folks, and they're all trained on different things. ChatGPT is trained heavily on, I think, Wikipedia and some other web scraped sources. So I can go there and ask it questions about something very specific that it knows nothing about, and it'll actually tell you. So for our purposes, what we're looking at is like corpora of emails, basically, from companies that are being sued. And so we will take those data populations and feed them into the system and say, learn this stuff. Don't learn anything else. Learn this stuff. And then we can ask it questions specific to that stuff. So, if it's like a particular consumer product or something like that, it'll know all kinds of information about that consumer product, but it won't know anything about like, aviation or something like that, some other topic. So the training data is important to be aware of. Yeah.
And yours is highly specialized for big lawsuits and mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, it's targeted to whatever the subject matter of the lawsuit or the matter is about. And it's dynamically targeted. So we feed it data and it learns about that data. It doesn't really care what data we feed it.
But once you fed it, it can find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we try not to cross it over also, unless it makes sense to cross it over.
What do you mean?
Like between matters or clients.
Got it.
So we don't want, lawsuit A and lawsuit B to really know what each other is about.
Hey, Jennifer, can you throw what you got back in the chat? Oh, there you go. Nice. Nice. Add typos and errors.
That's such a good bullet list too. It's really good at generating bullet lists.
Yeah. Humans don't always speak in perfectly formed sentences. That's so. So let's see. How do we? Is it who's going to lead this conversation? Is it
Ray and Charlie?
Yeah.
Well, there's a good question that just popped up. Don just asked a really good question here in the chat, which is perpetuating myths of when browsers allow AI access to real-time web content and the AI starts drawing AI content, some of which are hallucinations. Are there ways to prevent that? So I think the gist of that is kind of like, how do we make it like more of our robot friend tool and less of the, less of a detriment to society. But Don, I don't know if you want to clarify the question a little bit if I got that wrong. I think it's worth a discussion.
Or maybe can't unmute at the moment. I know there's several people who are in other situations where they really can't talk.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think there are a lot of, just talking about the myths of AI in general, everyone kind of goes to like the Terminator thing, like it's going to turn into Skynet and destroy us all. And I don't think that that's really going to happen. I think AI will always remain just a tool that people become experts at using, just like a robot that builds cars for you or whatever. Those robots never took over the world, but they did make assembly line process a lot easier. So I think AI becomes the tool that people in any industry should be able to use and take advantage of. So learning how to prompt engineer, for instance, I think that's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
use or lose. Yeah. There's
I think one of the
going around my world right now that says you won't be replaced by an AI, but you'll be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI. I'm sorry, I think I just spoke over someone.
No, I wanted to let you finish your thought, but to Don's question and to Margie's point earlier, there's a way to strike a balance, right? Of asking students to generate original work, making sure that they're thinking on their own, but also leaving our institutions able to use a tool that the workforce has already started using. If congressmen and their staff are using it to generate drafts of bills that they then tweak, if we know that AI is being used in a number of fields as part of the workflow, then we probably need to be thinking about in what ways do we need to introduce students to AI so that they're using it to support their learning process, again, with academic integrity as a core goal and influence. That would be something I put out to this group is how do we strike that balance and how do we do it, again, because this is the Peralta Online Equity Conference, how do we keep equity in mind when there's already a difference between ChatGPT 3, which is free, and ChatGPT 4, which costs a monthly fee that some students cannot pay or they would be making a choice between that and some other necessity. And then the bias is inherent in these tools that draw from information or databases that's largely Western or largely Eurocentric or what have you. So starting to think through some of the equity issues and how we as educators strike that balance of preparing students for a world that AI will inhabit and having them be original thinkers.
When I was at Apple and what we were trying to do was take a new technology, basically microprocessors and computers. We were trying to take a new technology out of the hands of the corporate overlords and put it in the hands of individuals so that they were empowered to change the world. I don't know if you remember that, but you know, that was the whole purpose of that company back in the day, was to empower individuals to stand up to institutional power, especially as it related to computing. And I don't know that I mean, I think we might have helped a little bit, but, and it wasn't all about profit the years I was there, because we had 4 really bad years. But, you know, that comes and goes. But I do believe that a company can have a moral compass. I don't know that Apple necessarily, I haven't been there in a long, long time, but when I was there, I think that for the most part, we were believers in the power of technology to fix societal problems, not get in the way of them, not exacerbate them. And so, you know, here we are all this time later, and I recognize that was probably naive, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't keep struggling to bring the technology to bear on these problems. I mean, can anyone imagine a way that we could harness AI to identify structural bias in loan processing or something? I guess that was a pretty specific example. I went to Cal, and Cal did a couple of professors at Berkeley did a study a few years ago after the fair lending stuff came out, because there was redlining and there was all kinds of horrible stuff going on about how banks lent money inequitably. And so they put in technology to insulate and when you applied for a loan, the decision was made by an algorithm that wasn't allowed to consider race or gender, you know, any of what they consider, you know, what were the sort of affected parameters on the bias that existed. And they did it, and the banks all did that for 10 years. And then a couple of finance professors at Cal studied the outcome of that, and it didn't change anything. And the point is, somebody made the point earlier that it's designed, these systems are often designed to perpetuate these systems. And so I guess my question is, is there any way to use AI to throw a wrench in the perpetuation of these inequitable systems? I guess that was a hard question, huh?
Well, I think you already answered it though, right? So if you use AI to challenge the system by investigating things that can you see a pattern in Mr. Chat GPT or Ms. Chat GPT, or maybe they don't use a pronoun?
It's probably
how would you fix the way loans are handed out? And then you could write an expose, turn it into something that could lead to change. But, you know, it's the willingness of the industry to make those changes is going to be an inhibiting factor, as well as, you know, the way Charlie was talking about society earlier. You know, we're still learning about this. It's to me, I'm thinking this is like the issues that folks had with whether or not calculators should be allowed in math classes. And so we're going to be grappling with cycles like this, and we're going to have to do it thoughtfully and again with equity in mind.
I had the same analogy in my mind as well, the calculator thing, because I grew up with that, with like no calculators allowed. You have to memorize your, arithmetic and stuff. But thinking about ways that AI can be used to sort of level the playing field a little bit, one of the benefits that I've seen is that we can actually eliminate personal bias by using an AI. So when an AI sees data or a subject or something like that, it doesn't have an opinion about it. It only uses the facts that you send into it to learn from. And it can generate facts about facts, but it won't look at textual data, for instance, and say, oh, I see, minorities, or I see lower socioeconomic status people in this. It sees just text, words, and it doesn't care like humans care. All humans have bias.
But it's limited to the text that it can review, and the majority of what's published is from a particular point of view, right? So
That's true unless you feed it very specifically. So the operators of the AI are both the people that are asking it questions and the people that are building it. And there's ethics that need to be addressed on the builder side as well. So for instance, don't feed AI, only the works of Shakespeare and expect it to spit out anything other than Shakespearean style answers. It should be a diverse input if we want it to be a diverse output.
If the input is there any way to put a thumb on the scale for equity?
I think that probably goes back to, society regulating this. And that's a scary thought, allowing society to self-regulate an industry or a technology. But I think, if there are think tanks or something like that that are working on this sort of thing, that could be the thumb.
Yeah. I wonder if we could do so if a lot of people fed AI the right kinds of prompts that would drive it towards an equity agenda, is it possible to tip the direction?
and
You
we'll
mean
make
like
this
to
the
have
last
it-
question, since we're at the time and we want to
yeah.
give our next speakers time to prepare, but let's make this the last question.
Yeah. And Charlie, we could talk about this more some other time.
For
I know,
sure.
I know your number. Oh, you were saying that was the last question?
Well, yeah, let's answer that question you just posed so that we can then close this session and move the topic along.
Yeah, I guess I'm just asking if anyone can imagine a way to turn this into a positive direction instead of something that we're I don't know. I'd like to think that we can use technology to solve problems. I still want to believe that. I mean, I'm 70 years old and I still want to believe that we can use technology to solve problems and not just exacerbate or create or perpetuate them. Am I crazy?
Are the two mutually exclusive?
Yeah, good question. That's probably the question to end on, Kevin. It's like, I think we need to spend a lot of time thinking about this. I think we need to write about it. I think we need to talk about it, go in discussion forums and participate when you see academic conferences, because this is starting to show up on academic conferences. We got to engage. We really do have to engage with these ideas and not engage in terms of, I don't think fighting it off is going to be the right answer. I think what we have to do is figure out how to, turn it, shape it, have it work in the favor of the things that we value, and not in the favor of perpetuating, existing power structures and financial interests and whatnot. Yep, boat has left the dock, Joan. Okay, well, thanks, Kevin, for facilitating. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for coming and participating. Really appreciate it. And I love the conversation. I'm Ray. Let me put that in the thing. I'm just Ray. Pretty easy, at baccc.net. That's the Bay Area Community College Consortium is what that stands for. So, and most people know Ray. So,
Well, thanks, Ray and Charlie, for providing a lot of thought-provoking questions. We definitely will make sure that people who couldn't join us in the live session will have access to the recording. And so we'll put the link that people can follow in the chat, where you'll be able to find those videos soon. We have a little bit of work to do to edit them and fix up the captions and all good stuff. Even AI doesn't do a perfect job with its auto captioning and transcribing. But then I also want to remind people that we have another session coming up in just 11 minutes. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that topic is around AI as access and accessibility. So if you're interested in AI, stick around. I'm going to close the recording, but this room will be open and we encourage you all to stay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
I'm going to have